Welcome to our final session in strategic planning. We've analyzed where we are and what we've dreamt about where we want to go. Now we actually have to build the bridge. Project management is often where great strategic plans go to die. We have the vision, but we struggle with the tactical, the specific, boring, but essential steps of turning a dream into an operation. It isn't that we don't think it is important. It is, if we don't commit the time and have the accountability, the day-to-day operations can occupy all our time. If project management is a weak point for you, like me, don't worry. You don't need to be a certified project manager to manage a project. You just need a system to keep the moving parts from colliding. Although it is helpful to have someone who thinks like a consistent project manager. I learned a lot about this from Dr. Joey Tomanik, the VP of Academics at Mid-Plains Community College. She used something called charters for institutional initiative to set groups up for success. Before a group ever met, she defined the parameters. A great charter does three things. It allows a manager to step back while the team moves forward. First, it establishes the goal and the clock. It states exactly what needs to be accomplished and by when. Second, it defines the roles. It identifies which departments or positions need to be at the table. For example, a person from financial aid, maybe one from IT, rather than just necessarily picking people we like and get work done. Third, a charter identifies the no-fly zones. It is crucial that we define what the group should not do. This prevents scope creep, where a simple project to update a form turns into a year-long quest to redesign the entire website. By setting these boundaries, Dr. T provided the guidance needed for the group to succeed without her having to be in every meeting. When you take a strategic gap initiative and turn it into a project, you need a standard way to define it. We've used a project proposal form to move from an abstract idea to a concrete plan. You'll find this form in your resources, and it asks the essential questions. First, the goal. This is a broad, abstract statement of what you'll accomplish. Next, objectives. These are specific, measurable results you aim to achieve. At the end of the project, it is subjective where you achieve the goal, but everyone should be able to look at the objectives and see if they were met or not. Third, you need a timeline showing when specific milestones should be achieved. Fourth, look at sustainability and feasibility. We all like starting new projects and thinking about ideas. The real question is, does our department have the time and the money to keep this going once the newness wears off? From the start, you need to be thinking about how you operationalize the tactical projects to make your strategic vision a reality. Finally, identify roles that define what level of involvement should those be involved have. In a small community college, we all wear many hats, which makes assigning roles hard. This often leads to the, "I thought you were doing that" syndrome. To fix this, I recommend the RACI model. It's a way to define roles so that everyone knows their boundaries. In higher ed, we often run into the too many cooks in the kitchen problem. Everyone wants to provide input, but most assume the actual work is for someone else. RACI clears the air. First, the R is who is responsible. These are the doers. These are the people actually doing the work. As you begin a project, clearly identify the people who will be involved in making sure it gets done. They're the ones completing the task on your project form. Thinking back to Dr. T's charter, initially it can be identified as what departments need an individual involved. Next, the A is who is accountable. This is the owner. This is the person who gives the final okay. As a manager, you may be the one accountable for your department and not be responsible for the day-to-day work. You aren't actually on the project team, but in the end, you are still the one accountable. A common mistake I see new directors make, especially if it's coming from an internal promotion, is the director feels like they need to be responsible for everything they are accountable for. This puts all the pressure on the director. It's okay for staff to be responsible to complete projects and have the director be accountable. The rule of thumb, you can have many people responsible, but only one person can be the one who's accountable. For the one who's accountable, it also provides clarity as the project is coming to completion. The C stands for consultant or advisors. These are the stakeholders who provide input before a decision is made. They have the expertise, but they aren't the ones doing the work. Defining this stops the too many cooks problem. They provide the ingredients, but they aren't the chef. It gives a chance for key stakeholders to be involved, but also not holding up the process of moving forward. They're a part of the project, but not involved in all of it, so you don't have to have 20 people attend every project meeting. Finally, I is who's informed, the partners. This is an important part for institutional trust. These are the people who need to know about the change before it goes live. As a part of this, think about the communication process to let others know about the change. I've led outreach teams where the staff found out about a major policy change or a new academic program only when a prospective student asked them about it or they saw it on social media. That's a failure of the informed category. If you don't identify who needs to be informed, you create confusion and burn trust. But when you get this right, when the outreach team, the advisors, and the front desk all know the change is coming, it creates a culture of coordination and professional respect. If an informed person has a concern, they know exactly who to go to, the person who is accountable. This keeps the communication lines clean and prevents the project from being derailed by side conversations. On projects that affect multiple departments, review your RACI chart with your supervisor before beginning. In addition, let everybody know their role at the start. If someone wants to change their role, then you can have that discussion. By letting everyone know their role, it helps avoid confusion. Once the team is set, you need to map out the milestones, the significant checkpoints on the way to completion. To track these, many project managers use a Gantt chart. Think of it as a calendar that shows not just when a task starts and ends, but how tasks overlap. For example, you can't train the staff until you finalize the software manual. A Gantt chart helps you see these dependencies so your project doesn't get bottlenecked. I've included an example of a Gantt chart on the screen for the implementation of a new video onboarding project we completed. This was a Microsoft Excel template that updated the calendar based on the information we put into it. I have not included a sample Gantt chart in the module, as if you do a search, you can find a better version for your project. But the project proposal form in the module does have a task table. This can be your low-tech Gantt chart. It tracks the task, who's responsible, the start date, and the completion date. If you keep this table updated, you'll never have to wonder if you're on track. Before we close, I want to give you 5 helpful rules to ensure your project doesn't just start strong, but actually crosses the finish line. First, go slow to go fast. Take more time than you think you need at the very beginning. Use the project proposal form to clearly identify exactly what needs to happen and set your key milestone. If your RACI chart is fuzzy at the start, the rest of the project will be a mess. Front load the planning so the execution is smooth. Second, define your cadence of accountability. Figure out your meeting schedule for the people responsible right at the start. It never works to say, we'll meet again when we find the right time. In a community college, there is never a right time. Put the standing meetings on the calendar for the duration of the project before the first meeting even ends. Third, consistency is your superpower. If you're the project manager, you have to be the heartbeat of the project. You must track progress on a weekly basis, provide appropriate updates, and hold people to their deadlines. You cannot treat this as I'll work on it when I get around to it task. If you don't take the deadline seriously, your team won't either. Enter these tasks as recurring meetings into your calendar. Fourth, visual progress builds momentum. People need to see that their hard work is leading somewhere. Use a visual tool, whether it's a shared Gantt chart, a simple Trello board, or even a printed thermometer chart in the break room. When a team sees a milestone turn green or a task move to the done column, it provides the psychological fuel needed to keep going through the mid-project slump. 5, plan for the operational handoff. When you write a new business plan, you include an exit strategy. You need to do this for your projects. At the start, ask, who owns this once the project team disbands? If you build a new registration process, make sure the training manuals and the informed stakeholders are ready to take it over as a permanent part of their day-to-day work. A project isn't successful until it becomes a standard operation. Strategic planning is how we bring humanity back into the workplace by respecting the seasons of the soul. We start by respecting the reality of our current season in the situational analysis. We dream about the harvest we want through strategic planning. And finally, we pick up the tools to plant the seed through project management. By using the project proposal form and the task template, you turn strategic initiatives into daily operations. You stop moving in 100 different directions and start moving methodically towards that vision you wrote about in your river story. Take a look at the project proposal form in your folder and try filling it out for one of the gap initiatives you identified in the last session. You've got the data, you've got the vision, and now you have the tools. Let's get to work.